Hey everyone, welcome to our lesson on using basic trigonometric identities. We're going to be talking about the sine, cosine, and tangent functions. And one of the most basic identities that always holds true for these functions is that the tan of an angle is equal to the sine of that angle divided by the cosine of that angle. From this one identity, we can find two other equivalent forms. And by solving for the other two pieces, this is the one for tan. If we multiply both sides by cosine of theta, you can see that we'll end up solving for the sine of theta and you can do the same thing to isolate cosine theta. So we're going to see that now. We're going to do that. We're going to use those three to calculate some values. Alright, so if tan theta equals sine theta over cosine theta, always, for any angle, let's multiply this by cosine theta. Let's multiply both sides by that. We can isolate and have the equivalent identity for sine theta. So both sides here by cosine theta is going to get rid of it on the right hand side for me. Up there, okay, and let's rewrite. So sine theta, well, that isolated sine theta over here on the left hand side, you can see equals cosine theta times tan theta. You can write them right beside each other. That implies multiplication there. All right, and now let's make one for cosine of theta. We see we have one for tan, we have one where sine is solved for. Let's make one for cosine. To isolate that, you can see from the down, we could divide both sides by tan. So doing that is going to get rid of it on the right hand side, and it's going to move it underneath sine theta, left hand side. Watch that. Sine theta, the identity we just found. Divide both sides by tan. Way there. Comes as the denominator on the left hand side. So rewriting, cosine theta equals sine theta over tan theta. So we now have really three equivalent identities just solved for different pieces. So now, how can we use those to calculate and solve problems? Well, one example of this is that if we're needing to find the sine of a value and we are given the other two functions of that value, so we're given the value for tan of that same angle and cosine of that same angle here, we can use our identities to calculate the value. Remember our sine form of the identity? Sine theta times tan theta. So if we're asked to find the sine of 42, and we're given the tan of 42 and the cosine of 42, you can see all we're going to need to do is multiply them. That's what it tells us to do to find sine. So we're going to put those values in here. So cosine is divided by the tan value. That's going to give us the sine of 42. About 0.669 when you multiply that out in your calculator. That's using that basic identity and other given information to have a different way to find your answer. All right, let's practice another one. Let's say we need to find the tan of 15 degrees, and they're going to give us the sine and the cosine of that same angle. We're using our basic identity, which was an angle is equal to the sine of that angle over the cosine. I can see that what I'm going to need to do is divide my values here. So let's make sure we do the right way. Let's take the sine value divided by cosine value. So here's the sine value, 0.259. And here's the cosine value, 0.966. And this should give us tan of 15 degrees. We type that in, we're going to get approximately 0.268. Right. Now, let's verify that this identity holds true by calculating both ways. So let's make sure that the statement, both sides are equal. We said that the tan of an angle should always be equal to the sine of that angle divided by the cosine of that angle. And we just found the tan of 15 using this. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the sine of 15 divided by the cosine of 15 degrees is really equal to the tan 15 degrees by typing these into our calculator. So if we do that, remember the sine of 15 and the cosine 15 were 0.259 divided by 0.966. 0.259. And the right-hand side, we're just going to type in our calculator tan 15. You're going to find that operation there. We are going to see that no matter how we calculate, both sides give us the same value. If that happens, if you get a true statement, that means that it works. The identity can be calculated both ways, and we're going to get the same value, a true statement. You should never get two different values on both sides because two different values are not equal, as we're stating here. Alright, so this concludes our lesson on using basic trigonometric identities.